Hi, today we're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of my first 3 weeks on the carnivore diet. If you're just joining in, I started the carnivore diet 3 weeks ago thinking it wasn't going to work at all. I ended up falling in love with it, and so this is kind of what I've learned in the last 3 weeks. So let's start with the good. The first thing is satisfying and easy. It's so nice to not have the questions every day of what am I going to eat, or what should I be doing, or oh well, have I had too many nuts today? Have I had too many polyunsaturated fatty acids today? Do I need more omega-3s? If you're just eating meat, you've got it all covered. You really don't have to track anything. That for sure is like a nice load off of this busy mom's mind. The second thing that has been great on the carnivore diet is I feel less bloated. I've had 3 kids and I've had 3 pregnancies, and I've just got a little bit of the mom belly. It's not bad and it doesn't really bother me, but it's really nice that I've gone in a belt notch even though I haven't lost much weight. And we'll come back to the weight thing. I'm not doing this for weight loss, but there has been some weight issues that aren't bad at all, but we're going to talk about that in a little bit. So having less bloated, which part of this is because meat is so nutrient dense that you don't actually have to eat a lot, like 1.5 pounds of ground beef, and that's all that's going through my system. So that's going to have some less bloat as my body just kind of moves it along. And we talked about this in the first video that yes, it does move it along just fine. I don't need fiber to keep this going. And then the second reason that the bloat has gone down is because it's such an anti-inflammatory diet. And this is when we go into how I accidentally ate a bunch of oatmeal cookies one day when I was on the carnivore diet, and how the inflammation skyrocketed the next couple days. We'll talk about that in a second, but having the lowered inflammation just means that like your overall body is less puffy. And like even my tongue, my face, my hands, like my fingers, and then it extends into my belly. And it's just nice to have like a little bit flatter of a stomach when, as a mom of 3, that I don't necessarily do this to, I'm not like a bikini model or anything, and that's not my goal in life. I'm not really exercising much other than swimming and walking. Having that flatter stomach is always a confidence boost, and it just makes me feel better in my clothes. The third thing, and this is probably the thing that's most impacted my life other than the psych issues that we talked about in the first video, is that my sleep every night is amazing. And it's like every night I woke up for the past 3 weeks feeling like I got the best sleep of my life. That's something that a lot of people will take for granted, but if you have sleep issues and you're used to waking up every 90 minutes, where like I use a sleep cycle app, and if I'm not sleeping well, I'll see that I'm waking up for like 10 or 15 minutes every 90 minutes, and it's just not good quality sleep. So going to sleep, and I was hoping kind of that the carnivore diet would help me not need to sleep as much. I need like 7 to 8 hours a night to feel well rested, and that stayed consistent, but I wake up every morning feeling amazing, and that's like a super nice change. And then this was definitely the biggest impact is with my mental health, and that's where most of my struggles are. We went into this a little bit more in the first carnivore diet video, that's just where my problems seem to be. Like some people have a hard time with weight loss, some people have chronic pain, some people have like chronic fatigue, and my thing is post-traumatic stress disorder from domestic violence, and really it kind of manifests as depression, anxiety. I don't ever look super sad, and I don't usually look super anxious, but it's just like it's kind of in the background of my mind, and it's really distracting. The carnivore diet got rid of the last little bit of that. And so that's just a super nice break, and that's definitely the reason I've stayed on it for these past 3 weeks, is that I get to keep that mental clarity. I get to keep not being distracted by it. It's called intrusive thoughts. I'm still working with a therapist, and I feel like therapy will probably be even more effective now that I'm eating this way, because they're able to do more and do more of the processing stuff without it being so overwhelming that I have to stop. And so mental health is definitely why I do this personally. Like some people have commented on the other video, you don't look very fit. I'm not really doing this to look particularly fit. I'm happy with my energy. I'm happy with living my life. I don't even go to the gym. I own kettlebells that I swing around once in a while, and that's about all I do. And then this is the last thing, and this is just something that I noticed, and it's interesting to notice things when you're doing this, is my inflammation is way down, and like one of the most objective ways to see that is that when I floss my teeth, I'm someone like my teeth are pretty close together. So I've always flossed after every meal. A lot of people will say like, I don't like to floss, or I haven't flossed in a month. No, not me. I always floss after every meal because I would always have stuff in my teeth. And I've noticed that since I've been on the carnivore diet, probably about a week in, my gums stopped bleeding. So they never bled really bad, but they would bleed like kind of here and there, like 3 or 4 places, just a little bit right after I flossed. And this isn't because I'm flossing more often now, and it's not because of anything else that I can think of other than inflammation has been reduced. And that's something that's super exciting, because if your body is inflamed, it's linked to so many chronic conditions. For like chronic inflammation, we know is horrible for your body. And so that my gums stop bleeding every time I would floss my teeth, that tells me that I'm kind of on the right track, and this is something I want to continue with. Okay, so now for the bad. So there's always 2 sides, 3 sides to every story. Day 9, all I had eaten that day was beef stock. I told you I was making that perpetual beef stock. I just hadn't really planned. I was kind of sick of ground beef, kind of sick of ground elk, and that's what I had most of. I hadn't really planned out my meals very well, because I'm a mom of 3, and you know, like moms, we tend to get caught up on dealing with all the urgent stuff, packing lunches, getting kids to school, all of that. But I still felt really good, but I knew I was hungry, and I'm just like, whatever, I'll be fine. I'll eat something later for dinner. But I was making my family cookies. I made really good oatmeal cookies, and I ate like 4 of them. So I started just eating like a tiny bit of one, and I was going to spit it out, which that's actually not something that's recommended. That's like a sign of an eating disorder, but I was just gonna like chew it to make sure I got the salt right, and then spit it out. And come here, Bob. And so on day 9, I had that quarter of one. I didn't spit it out. I swallowed it, and then because I was so hungry, I like proceeded to eat a bunch more. And that was something that it was totally because I didn't plan ahead. I didn't have my meat thawed. I hadn't cooked for myself. I had only cooked for my family, and I was just trying to eat like stock because it was easy to reheat. But I learned some great stuff from that. And so that's what I'm going to share with you, is that the next day I'd been weighing myself, and I know a lot of men are watching this. Women, our weight go all over the place. But I had been weighing myself, and I was kind of at a consistent point in my cycle where I wouldn't expect to gain weight due to hormones right now. The next morning I gained 6 pounds. And to me, that shows that, because I ate probably 3 or 4 cookies, and they were like, you know, like medium-sized cookies. They weren't huge or anything. So it wasn't really the bulk of the cookies that was causing so much of the weight gain. And it definitely wasn't the calories. Like 6 pounds worth of calories is like an exorbitant amount. So it definitely wasn't fat gain. It was inflammation. So it was just like my body being all, hey, I really don't like that we're going to inflame because we think that these cookies are super bad for you. And so I didn't notice any digestive problems, but I did notice that the scale jumped up. And 6 pounds of inflammation overnight is a lot of inflammation. And so then I kept weighing myself the next few days, and it did progressively go down. Like the day after, when I went back on carnivore for real and didn't cheat, it was down 4 pounds, and then I lost the last 2 the day afterwards. So I just thought that was a really interesting like case study. Eating something off carnivore and immediately jumping up 6 pounds shows that there's something your body really doesn't like about that. So then I got more serious about meal planning for myself, and not just being like, oh, well, carnivore diet's super easy. I can just throw a steak in a pan and I'll be fine. And so I planned out like a variety of different things based on what I'm doing, like just meat or meat and dairy or meat and dairy and eggs. And if you click down below, I have this for you as well. So if you need a little bit more direction as you're trying to do the carnivore diet, even though it's super simple, and like you could just go buy 10 ribeyes and cook a ribeye every day and be good to go, you might want some more variety, kind of like I did. And having just a little bit of planning to go along definitely helped me stay on track after that whole learning cookie experience. So then on day 14, which was Valentine's Day, I made cupcakes for my family, and I had no problem skipping those. So it wasn't that I was craving sugar or craving carbs or anything like that. It's really just that I was hungry and they were there. And of course, everyone knows that cookies and cupcakes are good. But seeing that I had way more willpower to resist when I was well fed kind of confirmed that all I need to do is be eating enough and I'll be fine. And some other symptoms that I had seen of me not eating enough was that I was getting hangnails, and usually those are correlated with not having enough protein, which I'm definitely having enough protein. I like 60% of my calories come from protein. I'm getting a ton of protein every day, but I wasn't quite eating enough calories, and I think it was showing up as hangnails. And then, again, since I've been meal planning and like making sure my meat is thawed and making sure I'm cooking for myself and eating, like I'll just kind of spot check to make sure I'm eating enough calories. Just because I get distracted. It's not that I'm not hungry, it's just that I'll be hungry and I'll be like, whatever, I'll be fine, I'll eat later. But if I spot check and make sure I'm getting enough calories every day, I noticed that later in the month when I got PMSing, which is when I usually want chocolate and like I'll either eat like keto chocolate like Lily's, or sometimes I'll just drive to the gas station and grab Ben & Jerry's. And it's usually only once or twice a month, but that I have pretty strong PMS cravings. Those completely went away on Carnivore. So that was really nice to kind of have the freedom from the cravings for food that I know isn't good for me. And again, it just tells me that Carnivore is completely nourishing. The way that I'm doing it, my body seems to really appreciate. And of course, this can vary. Like, it's not because I'm saying that this is going to work for everyone. It just happened to work for me. And it was really nice to not have those chocolate cravings around that time of the month. And then the associated, like, I'll always get 3 or 4 pimples, which I wasn't sure if it was hormones or it was chocolate. I'm pretty sure it was chocolate. So that, those both went away from Carnivore, and that's kind of a nice break to have. Other things that were kind of bad and not my favorite on the diet is that I got sick of ground beef. Like, I don't like just brown ground beef in a bowl. Like, it's very utilitarian and it works and it fills me up, but I'm just not a huge fan. So I started making meatballs, and I like those a lot more. They're just kind of like little truffles of meat. And I also purchased smoked cod liver. You can get it on Amazon, and I'll link down below. It's super good. It's just cod liver. It's wild caught. It's canned, so it's already made and easy to eat. It's in the cod liver oil, which is super high in those omega-3 fatty acids that we all need for our brain health. So having those, and then I also bought pork cracklins, they're from sustainably raised pork. And so those come in a package also. So just having like 2 options that are packaged, which isn't my favorite and it's not what I would recommend is the best, but having packaged options of something helped me stop relying on cheese so much. So when I first started, I was eating probably more cheese than I thought I should be. It wasn't a ton, but it was like if I needed if I was still hungry after dinner or I needed something without having time to cook, I was eating cheese, and I really wanted to just try eating meat and see how my body did with that. And once I had been on only meat for about a week, I just noticed my skin started clearing up. So my skin's never been super bad, but I've always had like the bumps on the back of my arms. And the bumps would go away when I was pregnant. So I've been pregnant 3 times, and they'd always go away when I was pregnant. So I knew it wasn't something that was like permanent. And I think it might be a sign of a dairy allergy. I'm not sure. So pulling dairy, I've noticed those have started to go away in the past week. And again, just having the organization and like the prepping and the planning and actually saying, hey, you need to prioritize feeding yourself, not just your family, has definitely helped with that. And then the ugly part of the carnivore diet, this is like the really gross, I've been looking through the ads online. We have a bunch of different grocery stores around here, and I've been looking, a lot of them carry grass-fed, grass-finished lamb. And so I've been looking for sales, and pretty much one grocery store every week has been having a sale on lamb. So it's a really easy way to get different cuts of meat, different varieties of meat, either lamb or wild caught, like scallops and shrimp. And so I was at Safeway because I thought they had lamb that was grass finished for $5.99 a pound, maybe $4.99 a pound. I don't know. It was pretty inexpensive. And I got there and the sale had ended the day before. And this is again my planning thing that I've been that's been my biggest hang up with carnivore, is not planning well enough. But next to the lamb was conventional ribs, and I mostly eat all grass-fed, like not 100%, but pretty darn close, is all grass-fed, grass-finished, sustainably raised. But I saw those ribs and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm hungry. The lamb is like now jumped back up to $12.99 a pound. I'm not buying that. And so I grabbed those ribs. I ate them, and I cooked them in the Instant Pot. They were super good. I ate a bunch because I was hungry. That night, I've never been that sick like from food in my life. And it was still meat, but it was conventionally raised meat. And I'm not sure if it was like a psychosomatic thing, like it's all in my head, because I really don't like conventionally raised beef. I think it's gross. I think it's bad for the environment. I think it's like carries all sorts of stuff. Like they're just not healthy animals. Or if it was, there's actually something in it, like because the cows are eating corn or they're eating soy, if enough of that was in it that it upset my system. But I woke up with indigestion, which I don't usually have indigestion. I took a Tums. That That didn't work. So I took like 3 more Tums because I have absolutely no self-control. And that still didn't work. So I grabbed like a teaspoon of baking soda. Baking soda? Yeah, baking soda, like the orange box. And then I chugged water, and that finally went away. Like I burped up, and then I was fine. But that kind of like taught me my lesson for impulsively choosing conventional meat. Conventional meat and I just might not get along. That's not to say that everyone's not going to be able to use conventional meat, or that it might, like that you should only do carnivore if you can only do grass-fed. But for me, I think because I'm used to wild game and I'm used to grass-fed beef that I get on a subscription from a local farm, and I'm used to like wild caught fish, the conventional ribs just did not go over well for me. So that was kind of like the ugly part. It's just your system becomes really sensitive when you've taken away everything that it's sort of built a tolerance up to. And then I put that in and it just didn't go well at all. And then one other thing that's kind of another way to show that my system is getting more sensitive is I told you in the last video I was doing perpetual broth, which means I'm just adding water. I had my Instant Pot on the slow cooker function, and I'm adding water, and I'm adding like beef bones as I had them, or just like fatty pieces of meat, and I'm just cooking broth over and over again. That's actually really high in histamine, and I thought I didn't have a histamine issue, but I started getting itchy like right around, I don't know, day 10 or so of the carnivore diet. And I thought like, oh, well, maybe it's just like a temporary thing. And I kept eating my broth. And then it kept getting worse. And so I stopped the whole perpetual broth thing. And so now I'm still eating beef stock. But what I do is I put like ossobuco, I think that's how you say it, fatty meat marrow bones in the Instant Pot with filtered water. And then I just cook it under pressure for 75 minutes instead of having it running on low heat. I'm cooking at high heat for a shorter amount of time, and that should make the histamine a lot lower. And that's something that's kind of interesting. It's also sort of like a side effect of an elimination diet, is you might find yourself becoming more sensitive, and it's really tempting to be like, oh, this stinks, now I can't even have that. But instead, like, rejoice and be like, hey, my body's saying this isn't working for me right now. And I do think that histamine is something that it's kind of present in all foods, unless they're very fresh. But our body should be able to process them. If it can't, it means that something's up and something needs to repair. And that's something that's really exciting about our bodies. And sort of, I come from a conventional, like I was raised completely conventional, standard American diet, low fat, margarine, all of that. I came into it until I had my kids and I started researching stuff for myself. I thought that modern medicine knew exactly what it was doing, follow the food pyramid, complete faith in modern medicine, and like our bodies are broken and we need pills and stuff to prop us up. And since I'm coming at this from, we did autism recovery because they've got nothing for autism, and I was desperate and I'm like, hey, I'll try anything for 30 days. We ended up doing the GAPS diet for my daughter, and I have a link down below. But so I come at this from a understanding now that your body knows how to heal itself. If you take away the stuff that's bothering it, you put in the building blocks it needs, which in this case is protein and fats, like healthy fats from meats, and you take away the stuff that's causing it problems, your body can probably heal itself to where in a little bit you're not going to be allergic to everything. So I doubt that the histamine thing is going to be something that's lifelong for me. Just like my daughter didn't have to be on the GAPS diet forever. We needed her to heal her gut. She lost a lot of her autism symptoms. It's like super exciting. And that's what I'm passionate about now, is kind of helping you guys, and well, helping myself, helping my own family, but also then sharing my experiences with you so that you can see that your body does know what it's doing. A little bit of direction, a little bit of intention, a little bit of planning, you're probably going to be able to heal as well. And so that's what I'm doing the carnivore diet for. I know a lot of people have done this for years and years and feel great, and that might be great for them. I don't intend to do this for years and years, but it looks like my body's really enjoying it right now. So 3 weeks in, I don't see stopping it anytime soon. But I also don't want to preach that everybody has to be on carnivore 100% of the time. No, it's just a super helpful and easy and life-changing reset for me, and I'm hoping that my body can just kind of sort out its issues and heal itself, and then I'll be able to go back to maybe a more varied diet that has less restrictions than the carnivore diet does. So a few other things I wanted to mention, and the questions that I have gotten. What do I pack for lunch? So I don't pack lunch, I work from home, and I'm always home. But we do go out of town pretty often, like almost every weekend we go out somewhere. And so what I've been doing is making a big roast, and then I shred it, and I bring my jar of salt, and I bring my jar of tallow, and then I bring a couple of those cans of the cod livers the cod liver's super good. I didn't think it would be. It's super good. It tastes almost sweet. It's easy to eat. Like I've even stuck it in my kids' food and they don't even notice it there. But I'll bring a couple of cans of those. So shredded meat I found is a lot easier to reheat. I do use a microwave, and I know that's super controversial. You could saute it in a pan if you want with your tallow, and then just salt it. But the shredded meat or pre-made meatballs I found reheat a lot better than steak. Like steak is it's really good fresh. Steak's amazing, but it's not awesome reheated. It just kind of loses all of the awesomeness of steak when you reheat it. If I'm gonna be gone all day, I'll just pack a bunch of food in a thermos. Because meat's super nutrient dense, so you don't actually need a lot. I've got these thermoses that I've been using since we did Gab's diet when my daughter was 3, and now she's 12. So they last a long time. They're kind of expensive, but they keep food hot. And then that much meat is definitely enough for most people. And then I just add my tallow, which is a super concentrated, easy source of fat, and add my salt in for those electrolytes. And so that's what I've been doing. At night, I had to switch from herbal tea. I was just curious because I really wanted to use this as an elimination diet. And I've just been drinking hot water, which is weird and it sounds kind of sad, but I like it. And so those are kind of the things. And a lot of people are used to me and my weirdness and they don't care. I don't talk about it. Like I'm talking about it here, but I don't preach how I eat to my friends. I kind of keep my nutrition life and my friend life pretty separate. And if people want help and they want to ask, like it seems like everyone wants to do the keto diet, I'm super happy to help them do the keto diet right now. But it's not something that I'm talking about. And so people just see that I'm just eating meat, or they see that I'm drinking hot water, and nobody really cares. And that's kind of what I do for that. And then one more thing, and this is something I was looking at, the whole itchy and the histamine thing. That might be tied to small intestinal bowel overgrowth, SIBO. And so that's where a lot of histamine imbalances come from. And that's from actually having too many probiotics. So I had mentioned, or that your probiotics are too high in your digestive system, like they're supposed to be low, and they've kind of gotten up too high. And so I'd mentioned in the first video that I was a little concerned about microbiome and all that stuff, where the histamine intolerance might be a sign that I actually have too many probiotics. So I'm definitely not doing any probiotics right now. The histamine thing went away. As soon as I stopped doing that broth, I stopped being itchy, like within 24 hours. And then I was also looking, and that's tied to oral allergy syndrome, which is something I've always had, is like when the pollen count gets high or my stress levels get high, I'm allergic to fresh fruits and vegetables. And that might also be a sign of SIBO, and I never knew that. I never really looked into it. It's like I get a swollen tongue and like an itchy mouth from eating like fresh peaches, fresh plums, like even if it's really bad and I'm really stressed, like even lettuce will do it. But in general, I knew before that I just needed to cook fruits and vegetables to kill the enzymes and I wouldn't get itchy. And it was something that I never really looked into much because I knew what to do with it. It was kind of annoying, but yeah. So I had that, and that's just another kind of sign that maybe my particular body doesn't love plants as much as other people's body does, because I'm having that like itchy response to fresh plants anyway. And so I'm curious to see, especially the summer, because it's always worse for me in the summer, if maybe doing a temporary reset on the carnivore diet can reset that. So that's that. That's my last 3 weeks on the carnivore diet. I'm really excited about it. And like, once again, it's not something that I'm thinking everyone has to do. Those are my experiences as someone doing this mostly for mental health and then a little bit of physical health. It's just mostly an interesting experiment to do on myself. I feel great on it. I have energy. I'm sleeping great. So I see no reason why not to continue. So as I keep going, I will keep updating you. Thanks for joining me, and I will see you back soon.